Welcome to Meadowbrook Memories Podcast. I am Jelly, otherwise known as Glacier Prince, and my co-host is Hitchcock, otherwise known as Alfred Henry. Our mission on this podcast series is to explore the stories behind the magic that was created at Meadowbrook. When over a span of 4 years, between 1982 and 1986, we saw the transformation of a small coeducational school with less than 1,200 students, 800 boys, 800 girls and 400 boys into a successful sports and scholastic champion, winning 7 major trophies, 3 Sunlight Cup, 2 Topping Cup, 1 Walker Cup, and 1 Nutriment Shield. And to crown these achievements, Meadowbrook also produced 2 Rhodes Scholars, Cavell Creighton in 1987 and Andrea Wright in 1989, both graduates of Meadowbrook in 1983. In this podcast series, we'll be speaking to persons, both males and female, who were actively involved in this incredible journey, along with friends and staff at Meadowbrook, which inspired the environment which created this golden era. We hope you enjoy our discussion. Please give us as much support and encouragement as you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. Welcome and thanks for joining us. All right, ready? Go. Today is Sunday, October 16, 2022. And welcome back to another conversation about Meadowbrook memories. Me, as usual, Glacier, or Prince, or Lance, or Jelly, and any one of those names will do. Joining me today as co-host for the first time, but who have been a recent guest on this program and was head girl at Meadowbrook when I started in 1974, and had the biggest afro to go with the Black consciousness movement of the early 1970s. So, Donna White Philibert. So, welcome back, Donna. Thanks for joining me again on this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our guest this week started Meadowbrook in 1962, which was Jamaica's independence year, and happens to be the year I was born. I was born in December 1962. So, I'm looking forward to this conversation to find out what Meadowbrook was like in that transitional year of our independence and what it was like before I was born. So, without further ado, let me welcome our guest today, Denise Irvine-Robertson. Welcome and introduce yourself, Denise. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. I was born like you're a kind of a child to me. The two of your children to me. I grew up in the Meadowbrook area. I grew up in what was called Tunbridge. Because when we went to live at the foot of Red Hills, Meadowbrook was a cow pasture.
Okay.
Cow pasture.
Uh-huh.
And
hence Meadowbrook. There's something about Meadowbrook and the land, you know.
Yeah, because when they started to cut the roads, my brothers and I would go behind the equipment, the tractors, the road diggers and everything, and watch them cut the roads. My parents didn't know about that, but and my eldest brother, the closest school for him to go to when he passed the common entrance was Calabar. Parents dropped him off on the way down there and they went to work.
Yes.
And my younger brother and I went to Wolmer's Prep. And then when Meadowbrook Prep started, and by then the high school had started, and Meadowbrook Prep started, they transferred us to Meadowbrook Prep. And that was the year I was due to take the common entrance, and I took it there. And I guess they must have put Meadowbrook as my first choice because it meant they didn't have to transport me to school. We could walk to school. Because we walked to the prep school, which used to be in the headmaster's back garden. That was where this prep school was at the time. And while they were building the prep school and the United Church, which was beside it.
So for the record, Denise, what year did you start Meadowbrook and what year you finished Meadowbrook?
I started in January of 62, and I finished in the June, July. Really, I think we used to go on to because of 69.
So 69. Okay.
So before you introduce yourself, Donna, let me just clarify something with Denise. In January 1962, why January? The school term started in January in those years?
It started, and the next year they switched over to what we now have, where it goes from September.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, reintroduce back yourself, Donna.
Yes, my pleasure to get this opportunity, Lance, to co-host with you. You certainly, made this series, Meadowbrook Memories, very interesting and diverse in topics. Although your intention, I know, was to make it more a sports memory, but it has evolved. And I think that will be great. So I attended Meadowbrook in 1968, September, and graduated upper sixth in 1975. And in the upper sixth, I was prefect and also was elected as not elected, but however, they appointed the head girls along with as head girl and Keith White was head boy along with me. Fond memories of Meadowbrook. I lived in the off Red Hills Road, but nearby the famous Turntable nightclub. So when I had to choose what school, I knew that Meadowbrook was in one of my three, and I think at St. Andrew and Immaculate, but Immaculate, St. Andrew would be too far for me to go, at that time, but it was a top school. But I certainly was not, as I said before, I was not disappointed when the results came out, and Meadowbrook was the school that I was, going to be attending because it was close to home. My parents were overjoyed because they really, we were new in the area. We had just moved. I attended Melrose Primary School before, and we had come into this neighborhood, and it was quiet, and a lot of families there, busy. It was below Purity Bakery at the time, and so I had the option. The 37 bus drove by on Havendale. Not Havendale, on Red Hills Road going into Meadowbrook, but I also could walk it to school. So from a parents, standpoint, they were like, "Oh, this is a great school." It was adjoining the church, and it was close to home. So that's a little of how I got there.
So let me ask you something, though, and both of you can answer this before I ask Denise the first question. You were at Meadowbrook at the time. Both of you were at Meadowbrook at the same time. Did you know each other from Meadowbrook?
I wouldn't have known anybody below third form by now.
I hear you, Denise. Yes.
And not unless she was related to somebody. I would know some of my friends, if they had a sibling who was in first form, yes, I'd have been aware of them, or the juniors. But I would have known as a prefect, because in lower sixth I was a prefect, and in upper sixth I was head girl. I would have known the third and fourth formers because as prefects you sometimes supervise a class if a teacher wasn't available.
Yeah.
And somehow I always got the difficult classes, like 4B. 4B was notorious, where all the troublemakers were the ones who would razz the prefects when and so I always got assigned them because usually the troublemakers knew my brother or my then boyfriend, and so they wouldn't razz me.
Okay, you got a pass. So,
Yeah,
so you
for
remember her,
me,
Donna, from Meadowbrook at the
no,
time?
no, not at all. Because then she left in '69, and I came in '68. I was like, a bright-eyed, freshman, and you're just coming into high school. I wouldn't dare try. I would. That was not on my horizon to try to know anybody in sixth form. They just seemed like so. Um,
So
Much
distant.
older and
Yeah.
distant, and like they knew they were looked upon as like young adults, and
Mm-hmm.
but we were like, think of us as this little pipsqueak frame, coming out of elementary school and seeing these tall girls and boys so
I wasn't
dressed in.
all.
But to us, I'm saying, from our
Yeah, man. From our
perspective,
vantage point, as a first farmer,
yeah,
everybody
as a first
it look like giant Denise. Don't worry.
giant,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly, and
It's
they
not even
were
your
well.
size. They just look and say they are bigger people than you.
Bigger
Yeah.
people, right? They look like young adults. That they were so confident, well spoken, and they were prefects were like junior police to me. It's like they ran the school, and you had to listen to their directives and so on. I do remember, however, a few people stood out because they were friendly to the younger students. I remember a young lady. She passed away though. Was called her Grace Vassal.
Mm-hmm.
I think she didn't start in first form at Meadowbrook, but she was very friendly, congenial. Her personality was she just lit up everywhere, and we happened to continue friendship even after I left Meadowbrook. I recently met Vinette Greenland, who also was a head girl. And I was certainly not speaking to Vinette during school days, but because she was very quiet, very, studious person, approachable. But again, as a first former, no way.
Mm-hmm.
There was Peter Kins. There were a number and Grant. There was Sam Walker too, attended Meadowbrook, judge. But these people were very, like I said, older, and they commanded respect.
Mm-hmm.
The majority did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
There
Denise,
were
yeah, go ahead.
there were some juniors who did stand out because they were either athletic or in some had some particular skill that made them stand out. And I'm bad with names. Maybe if I saw their face, I'd say, "Hey, yeah, I remember that person." But
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
yes, you're saying Glester?
No, no, I was
Lance?
saying the first question I normally ask any guest who come on this program there. And you kind of answered it already, but I want to ask you back officially. Did you choose Meadowbrook or Meadowbrook chose you?
Uh I'm not sure. I think in my mind I had thought that I would go to Immaculate, but I think my parents had put number one Meadowbrook, and I was at the prep school, so I was sort of and I think in my mind I knew I was going to be going there
Mm-hmm.
because I was
Yes.
already at the prep school, so I was expecting, and it seemed natural. I had a cousin there already, and I remember was it coming on towards their end of term, there was some concert that happened at the high school, and the whole group of us from the prep school, there wasn't that many of us at the prep school really, but yeah,
I
because it
was
was just the beginning of the prep
I was
school,
gonna ask you
were
that. Mhm.
carted across. Yeah, we were walked across the playing field because from the headmaster's garden through the back gate and into the auditorium to attend, and it was nice.
You was
We were entertained and we had fun, and we looked around, and these big kids looked like a bunch who'd be okay to be among. So
uh-huh.
I was not upset that I knew that my parents had put Immaculate Conception too. I wasn't all that keen to go to St. Andrew because although I had some of my aunts had gone there, and I would have had to travel the bus to go there. I was not that fond of that thought.
Right.
Same, same, same with like we were a one-car family, and I didn't see the logistics of Immaculate Conception either. So maybe it was a little bit of happy coincidence on both sides. But I think my parents had made up their mind by hook or crook I was going to Meadowbrook.
What was the size of the prep school? You said it wasn't a lot. Would you say less than 50 or more than 50
I would
students?
think it was less than 50 because it was. I don't think it was more than 10 of us in the class for the common entrance. I don't think it was very many of us.
Okay.
Um,
And they call it common entrance in those days, Denise, from that time.
yes, it was called the common entrance.
You know where that name come from?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to give I don't want to say yes and give an answer that may not be 100% accurate.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah.
I have my ideas, but I'd rather not say and say something that's not accurate.
Well, maybe the question I should ask, what before, and maybe you can't answer it, but what was it like before common entrance? When did common entrance actually started?
I haven't got a clue.
Okay.
I haven't got a clue.
That's before your time then. Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall. I wouldn't want to even venture to say when it started because I'm of the opinion, and I could be wrong. That it had something to do with Ministry of Education and whoever was in power or whatever, how that may have come out of the Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
Yes, it was by the ministry because what happened is that secondary schools were being funded to some extent, not 100%, by the ministry. My understanding, and I may not be 100% correct, is that Meadowbrook was partially funded by the United Church and partially funded by the government. A lot of the secondary schools were either being funded by, like Woolmer's, there was a trust fund and the government funds. And a lot of the other schools were like that. JC, I think also there may have been a trust fund set up, some such thing. I may be wrong on that. And a lot of them were partially funded by the government. Back in the day when I was in school, you got into high school one out of two ways. You passed the common entrance, and when you passed the common entrance, you either got a full scholarship, a partial scholarship. The full scholarship, the government paid for your tuition. A partial scholarship, they paid part of your tuition, your parents paid the other part. Then you had one child out of the whole island usually got what was called or that was one child or a handful of children, and you got a code scholarship. And the code scholarship, and I think it was one child per year, got everything that the child could need to complete his or her education. Tuition, clothing, food, like if they were, and boarding was covered by that scholarship.
Yeah, I think they still do that, but they probably call it something different. I know you're talking about it. Yeah.
Yes.
I think they still do that.
Now, if you didn't pass anything in the common entrance and fall in any of those categories, then if the school had space left over, your parents could pay full tuition.
Okay.
Problem was very few schools had space.
Oh, there were not enough schools at the time, or enough classroom space.
Right. Not enough classroom space, not enough schools. Like after Meadowbrook, I remember there were a few other high schools coming on. I don't remember that, but there were other few high schools being established.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
there
yeah,
were
yeah.
some
So,
established
so,
after that.
so let me ask this question, Denise. What happened to those students who didn't pass the commandment and didn't get a half a scholarship?
They usually well you usually have your first chance at it
Yeah, yeah.
when you were 10.
Yes, I remember
Then
that.
eventually it became 11 plus. When I
Mhm.
took it, so long as you were 10 within the year, because I was young for it. Like I started high school, I was not quite 11 because in that same way, because I was 11 in the February
Okay.
when school started. I was started in January. As a matter of fact, it ended up so. Although I repeated fifth form because I wanted to get more subjects in the GCE. We used to take the GCE back then.
Yes.
When I left high school at the end of the school year in '69, I had not yet turned 19. I was still 18.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were 18 in
As a,
1969.
yes. As a matter of fact, Mr. Thorpe was trying to persuade me, and I wish I'd listened to him, to repeat sixth form. But I said to myself, well, I've already repeated fifth form. I'm not going to repeat sixth form.
And why did he advise you to do that, to repeat sixth form?
Because he felt, had I repeated sixth form, I had a good chance of getting a scholarship to university.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You'll probably get some better grades. And that's University
Yes,
of the
I'd have
West
got better
Indies.
grades. I'd have got better grades.
Okay.
Most of the kids who he encouraged to repeat, because most of my class, we were a young lot, and then some of them were also coming up from the year behind me because that in our form that year, most of them who he encouraged to repeat did get better grades. Most of them went on to stellar academic careers.
Yes, that is true.
So Denise, you say you grew up in the Meadowbrook area. So you're quite familiar. Were you familiar with the high school before you started that first day?
Yes, I had a cousin who was there already, and plus, it was there. Mind you, I was on the other side of Meadowbrook. I was at the foot of Red Hills.
Okay, and what was it like in those days, the area itself? 'Cause you talked about it earlier. I don't know if it was before we start recording that. It was like,
When we moved up there, it was all bush. It was a
what year was
mango.
that?
We moved up there in late 57, late 57. No, or 56. Let me see. How old was I? My brother would have been 2. So that would have been 55, 56 is when we moved up there.
Oh, in 55, 56.
Yeah.
And the school
started
in
So you
March.
say it was like a country area then Denise, so you moved there.
Yes. People thought we were moving to the country. No bus came up there.
Yes, I remember you said it
my
stopped
mother
maybe
used
at
to tell us
Calabar.
tales of dropping when she take when she because we were one car family, because that was when my parents got a car because no bus came up there. So my parents had to learn to drive and get a car.
Oh, of course, to move around
to the country. And so in the morning, because my father worked with the customs, so he was working on the wharves and all that. So she would get up in the morning, drive him to sometimes he had to start work before daybreak, drive him down to work, and then and come home to take my brother to school and go to work herself.
Yeah, that was a hike coming from there to go all the way down to the wharf. Yeah. Right?
And so she said sometimes she'd see the Calabar boys waiting for the bus to go up to Calabar. And because she knew, my brother went there, my little brother went there, she would stop and pick up all them, because in those days it was safe. The car would be loaded with all the boys going to Calabar, drop them off and come home.
Right. Oh my goodness.
So Denise, you're talking about your brothers. How many brothers and sisters you had? And were you older than all of them, younger? What was that like?
I have one older brother, and my younger brother, the notorious Tony. And I have two foster sisters who I acquired through Meadowbrook.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and when you say acquired, what do you mean? They
Well, I grew up in a household with two brothers and a neighborhood where the only girls were either my eldest brother's age, he was about 5 years older than me, almost 5 years, or older, or hadn't been born yet. Eventually, there were little girls born in the neighborhood, and I needed I always wanted a sister. Various cousins would come and stay with me and all that. So
right,
But don't you remember Mrs. Campbell?
She was the bursar, or
Right.
Right, Mrs. The bursar.
Her daughters went to the prep school, and I
Okay.
was friends with them.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they knew that I missed not having a sister, because I was always whining and telling Jennifer, who was my friend, that she was so lucky to have a sister of her own. And Mrs. Campbell knew, so she knew of this young lady at Meadowbrook who happened to have, the year she took the common entrance, that she was a code scholarship winner, but she had transferred to Meadowbrook in fourth form.
Okay.
And where she was staying, it was not convenient. She had been staying with a friend of her family, but she lived in Mount Bay. And she thought she knew my parents, and because my parents they had been involved with the prep school, and very much involved. And the minute that I was enrolled at Meadowbrook, they got involved in the PTA, and plus she knew my parents from my being friendly with her daughters. So she said to my mother, I know you don't do this sort of thing, but would you think about having Beverly Ralph come on board with you? At first, my mother hemmed and hawed. The story my mother told me was, I finally said, okay, I'll meet her. And she met Beverly and fell in love. Because my mother always wanted more children, but just never had more.
Yes.
So next thing you know, Beverly comes to stay, and Beverly and I bonded immediately as sisters. Beverly didn't have a younger sister. I didn't have an older sister. And Beverly's older brother had migrated to England, and she was looking for more siblings herself. And her mother became an aunt to me. And when Beverly went home for holidays, I went pee-pee, cluck behind her. And sometimes her mother would come and stay with us. So I acquired a sister. To this day, we tell people we're sisters. And unless they know the entire family history, they don't know any better. Her children call me aunt and forget that I'm not their blood aunt. And I forget they called my mother grandma. Then a few months later, Joan Campbell, who was also in first form with me, and Mrs. Campbell said, Madge, I know of another girl who is kind of the same age as Denise. It worked out so well.
And there comes another foster sister.
So I have two sisters. They both got married from my parents' home.
Yeah.
And their children call me aunt. And I am happy as a pig in muck. I have two sisters.
Yeah. Your story is so similar to, I think, a lot of other families, and children in school, where you hear people talk about, having, whether cousins or, as you said, foster sisters, and become the extended family, But I wanted to ask you, when you mentioned, you talked about the neighborhood, how it was like country and countrified. What buildings were there when you first came? Because
mango trees.
Mango trees.
It's a Julia East Indian mango, right?
Huh?
Julia and East Indian mango trees.
No. No, there were Bombay mango
Oh,
trees,
Bombay, yes.
guava trees, and
Wow.
gimblin.
Mm.
Okay. I didn't know. I never heard that
So
before.
there's
So
no
that's
building at all. That's pure mango tree.
There
Mhm.
was a watchman's hut. There was a man that used to, kind of on the border of Tunbridge and Meadowbrook. There was a man that we used to call Watchy, and he lived in a mud and hut,
Wow. Mhm.
It
and
was
he
like,
had some cows and some
mm-hmm,
goats.
mm-hmm.
No, Meadowbrook, when you came in 62, Denise, that's like 4 years after the school officially started. Four
More or less,
years,
yeah.
more or less. Yes.
But
Um,
by then it had a few hundred. There was sixth form was already established by then.
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
really. So then you were you in any relation with the first 26 students that
Some of
attended?
them were they were still the first 26. Some they were most of them. Some of them were already they were in sixth form by then. Some of them were in sixth form.
Okay. Oh,
I remember, but I don't know. I can't say which ones were the first 26.
right.
Like, to tell the truth, I will be honest. I am a kind of an unconscious person. I live in my own little bubble, and I wasn't kind of conscious of the place this was in history. I knew it
Yes.
was a young school and all that, and I wasn't thinking that somewhere down the line somebody's going to ask me about this moment in history.
No, that's fine. But let me ask a question. How many students were in your class when you started 1962?
Round about 27 or so.
And how many separate first forms were there? When I started in 74, there
We
were
had an
three.
A and B stream,
A
an
and
A
B,
and B.
okay. When I started was A, B, and C. I don't know what they had when you started, Donna, but it was A and
Uh,
A.
A, A and B, the C streams came later on,
Okay, when I started
Yeah.
in 74, there was a C stream. So
Yeah.
you were on the 3-story block, Denise.
When in first you didn't hit the 3-story block till you hit I think when let me see. I know in first form we were in the assembly hall at the back.
Mm-hmm. That's near where the
I'm
principal
trying to
office was.
remember if we made the 3-story block before third form. I don't think we made it before third form. I
Third form,
think
yes.
first and second forms were in the assembly hall.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yes.
Yeah.
But the question I want, the 3-story block was there though. You just didn't go in, you didn't
Yeah,
have,
yes, the 3-story block was there, and they were, and shortly, I can't remember exactly when the ground was broken for the art room and the
labs.
labs, and then eventually the sixth form and the library. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to picture it in my mind.
Yes, those must have come
After
after
it.
That was
after
that. Yeah, that was
62.
after.
So
Yeah,
just to
because
confirm, when you
yeah, I
went,
remember.
yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Danny. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. The 3-story block was there then, but because by the time we were in fifth form, the fifth form was over where in the block where the art room was. Yeah, I remember fifth form being upstairs from the art room.
So I just want to get a visual. When you started in Meadowbrook, only 2 buildings that was there was the assembly hall
And the
and
3-story block.
3-story block. Okay, and you had your classroom in the assembly hall near the principal's office.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's the only 2 buildings there. Okay, that's a wide holy pass. The school, so you came there,
Yeah.
the school must have looked big then, Denise.
Uh, well, not really, because it didn't look as big as like Woolmer's, which was where when I was at my first foray. Well, therein lies another story which I won't bore you with, but my first real foray into preparatory school was at Woolmer's Prep, and which was just down the road from Woolmer's High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had it and Woolmer's was a large campus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, much larger than Meadowbrook
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
But then again, you have the girls' school and the boys' school side by side, so that was a
Yeah.
little overwhelming. So it
Okay.
didn't look very large to me. It looked small. I knew it was a small school, but at least I knew I wouldn't get lost in the machine.
You weren't intimidated by the size of the school then?
No.
Okay, perfect. I hear what you're saying. And then you were familiar with the area because you went to the prep school just next door.
Right.
So what are some of the friends you remember when the first day you came at Meadowbrook, first term, if you can remember that?
My closest friend with those first few years were Bertha Riley, and I'm sorry I've lost touch with her. Marlene Boxer. I remember she's now been at Oxford, but she was been at Hunter. There was Hope Cook, and of course Joan Campbell. Joan and I became very close because, of course, we became sisters.
Yes.
Joan was in 1B at first, and then she transferred over to by the time she hit second form, she was in 2A. Let me see who else. Of course, there were
with you. Those girls also.
No. They're all coming from elsewhere.
From elsewhere. Okay.
The Campbell girls and I had been close in prep school, but we started move as you as you get older, you go different ways, and
right.
we remained friends, but we weren't as close. I guess they got with they were in the B stream as in the A stream, so I guess you who you're in sitting side by side every day in class sort of keeps
influenced
you
right. Yeah.
And then they lived just beside the school, whereas I was walking home. So like over the years, sometimes I'll be walking home with different friends, and so
that was good.
So different people coming and going, and over the years.
I'm curious, Denise, what was the ratio like of boys versus girls at the time in 1962 in your classroom?
I think it was. I don't know that it was not even. I don't think so. I know that quite a few. There were the standouts, like Paul Jennings, Archie MacDonald. Dear.
Wow. Paul Jennings. Yeah, definitely. Those names, stand out.
Oh dear, I'm seeing him in front of him now. I'm remembering nicknames, and I don't want to call nicknames. Oh dear, I've seen him.
Nicknames are good here.
Yeah.
Because I remember the last time I saw him was after school, and and he did engineering. Oh Lord.
So what's the nickname that comes to mind?
Well, so many people get called Fatty. He was Fatty, but I don't remember his last name. It's because it went with his last name.
Oh, okay.
And yes, oh Lord, he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's
good. But
later, was it in third form? Like there was Peter Glaze. Some of the guys that stand out came later.
Yes.
No, Peter Glaze. He used to drive.
Yes, I remember.
His older brother was there. I think his older brother might have been one of the earlier ones. I don't, the original ones, because when I came there, Paul was an athlete. His older brother.
Mm-hmm. They lived on Hurlingham Drive, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I asked you about the classroom, Denise. I mean, in terms of the school, like, you remember like how many girls versus how many boys? Because when I went to Meadowbrook, and even
I think it was even Stephen, but I wouldn't swear to it. I say I lived in all my life. I've lived in my own little bubble, and I don't notice things like that.
Okay.
I was kind of a more focused on kind of I wanted, Fabian Brown. I wanted to keep as close in marks to those guys, because between Fabian, Archie, Bumpy, and
Bumpy, yes, I remember that name. Yes.
that's Jennings, Paul Jennings.
Paul,
Those three, they dominated the marks. So I wanted to keep as close, as close to them in marks as possible, because those three had they were going to be 1, 2, 3. Fabian was always one, and then Archie and Paul were jockeying for who was number 2 in the marks. So the rest of us were all trying to get as close to them as possible.
They were the bright sparks.
Huh?
They were the bright sparks.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Leaders of light there, yes, from the get go.
So the rest of us were all jockeying, and I'm trying to remember. Who was it? Who was the class joker at the back? Oh Lord, you always have your jokers at the back.
Yes, there's always.
But at the same time, even the joker was not a dunce. Seemed to have been a very bright, but the only thing we bummed out at was Latin. Our form was a form that made them abandon Latin at all at the school.
So you're saying Latin was
part of the curriculum
part
when
of
we
the
were
curriculum.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
But after our group, they abandoned it.
Okay, yeah, because I know when I attended, it was Spanish. Spanish was the other language. I think French was, I believe, but I don't want to. I could be wrong, but I know
they didn't do French when I was there. Spanish was the language they offered.
Yeah.
And,
or if they didn't do it, because I don't want to get quoted that I modeled. I know for sure it was English and Spanish. But unless I'm thinking of someone who did French, but he could have done it as an extra language elsewhere. But I know other schools like St. Andrew and
St. Andrews offered French.
Right.
St. Hugh's offered French.
Offered French, exactly.
Yeah, but it was back then. Schools offered one or the other, and at the time. Back then, it made, I don't know why, but it made sense to do Spanish because Spanish was becoming the language of the region.
Well, we're surrounded by Spanish-speaking people, so that kind of makes
sense.
Right.
Our closest neighbor, Cuba, is Spanish, yeah.
Exactly.
Mind you, what I discovered when we traveled to Mexico, and my mother worked with the World Health, and when she traveled throughout Latin America, was that we were doing in school, which was what the curriculum called for. We were doing Castilian Spanish, which Latin Americans don't understand.
Yeah. Somehow I recall Miss McLennan explaining that to us,
Yeah.
Yes.
So sometimes she would explain the difference in the pronunciation too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I remember her, doing that.
And before I ask about
by the way, one thing I want to do is I want to give a shout out for all the teachers we had back then. I don't know about what happened after I left.
Yes.
We had such wonderful teachers.
I want to call them out, Denise. I'm going to give you a chance, but I want to ask a side question before. But do any of you know if Latin is being taught in any school in Jamaica still?
I don't know. I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that Latin is taught as a part of anybody's curriculum right now, because I don't know if the same is happening in Jamaica that's happening here in North America, but schools are becoming more and more less classic in their education and more specialized and yeah.
I think the shift in the global market I think influenced some of the languages being taught, because as I
hear things like Mandarin and all that. But
exactly. When we think of trades, our trade partners, it is more relevant to look at the languages that are being spoken in the countries that we are trading with.
Yeah.
So hence it is. I know here in the States it's more common, for children to learn to do Mandarin or Japanese or something, and not just
Yeah.
just Spanish and English,
Yeah.
sort of thing. But
And it, eventually,
Latin I know went out quite
yeah,
a while
yeah.
back. Yes.
My father did Latin, and I never learned that in school. And then before long, the only language we're going to have to learn is coding. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a new
Yeah.
language because that's the computer language.
The
But
computer language, yeah.
you have to say if you learn for code or this or that. So it's like,
But yeah, learning a language won't go away. It's just the way you learn it will
yeah, yeah,
shift.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Because a lot of things are being done where it's easier for you to teach yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, 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 right.
Yeah.
I can learn. So you were talking about the teachers, them, Denise. I want you to mention who was the principal at the time you went to Meadowbrook, and name the teachers them you remember who were at Meadowbrook at the time when you
When
started
I
in in 62.
when
Yeah.
I first got there, we had the interim teacher, principal, Mr. Cuthbert, I think it was. He had taught my father at Wilmers,
Wow.
and then Mr. Cuthbert, um, and then Mr. Bogle came. I think when I was in second form, and then he left when I was in fourth form, and Mr. Thorpe came. Teachers. I don't remember. I remember there was a teacher. I don't remember him who did math. I remember. I can see his face today, and I can't remember his name. But what I do remember him telling me is that I was a genius because my handwriting was atrocious. And he told me all geniuses write atrocious. I can still picture him there, and I wish I could remember his name.
That sounds like something that Mr. Gooden have said to you. It was not Mr. Gooden.
No, Mr. Gooden came. He came when I would have been in fourth or third form.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he taught physics. It was too late for me to learn physics, or maybe I was in fifth form when he came, because
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. He taught my younger brother, who was just a year behind me at the time. Now I would have been in fourth form, because Tony caught me up in fifth form.
So your younger brother went to Meadowbrook as well?
Yes, until fifth form, and then he transferred to Wolmer's
Sixth form,
after
okay.
because then Mr. Bogle went there.
Okay.
Let me share with you, since you brought up about the principals, that for us in 58, when the school first started, Reverend Rothney was acting principal.
He was the first principal, Donna.
Reverend D. Rothney, followed by Margaret Gartshaw.
Yes.
58 to 1960. Then there's a Whitmarsh Knight, T.M. Whitmarsh Knight, from 60 to 63. And then Donald Bogle, which you mentioned, Denise, 1963 to 67. Then Mr. Thorpe came in 60. Warren Thorpe, and he hailed from Calabar, right?
I don't know where he came from, but
yeah, his reign was from 67 to 1979. Followed by our dear Miss McLennan, Carlotta McLennan, 79 to 1988. And then Dr. Margaret Morris from 88 to 1995. And then Mrs. Headlam acted from 95 to 96. And then Alice Lowe, 1996 to 2003. Followed by Winsome Reed. So she reigned from 2004 to 2011. Then we had Mr. Michael Peart and then now the current principal is Mr. Kevin Facey. He comes from Wolmer's. Yeah. So it's a lot going on there.
So you had two principals you remember you were under, Denise. What was the difference like between Mr. Bogle and Mr. Top?
Different styles.
Anything particular stand out in terms of both Mr. Bogle, because there's so much with Mr. Thorpe. His leadership style.
No, they were just different. Mr. Thorpe was had a more quiet leadership style, I would think. If I'm asked to say, but I think it was more. Yeah, I think a more quiet leadership style, whereas Mr. Bogle may have been more obvious in his leadership style, sort of a thing. But I don't know. They were both. They were both in had very definite ways of looking at things, and they had a very keen sense of where they intended the school to go, I think.
Yes. I could say yes to Mr.
They had a
Thorpe
very keen vision of where they wanted it to go.
Yes.
But I just think different styles of how they would achieve that mission. And I think they both believed in Meadowbrook.
I would agree with. I didn't know Mr. Bogle, but definitely Mr. Thorpe. Yes, he believed in Meadowbrook. He felt like he invested himself in developing that school. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think what happens is that it's hard for me to compare, because when I was under the influence of Mr. Bogle, I was at that stage of my development where I would have been more influenced by Mr. Bogle. It was at that time of a child's development. Whereas what I am sorry about is that I didn't have more time with Mr. Thorpe, because as I look back now, I think I would have benefited greatly from having had more time with Mr. Thorpe. But I just think that they just had different styles. But I think they both believed in Meadowbrook, and they both had a vision of Meadowbrook.
Yes. Yeah. My recollection, not extensive, but I do recall that Mr. Thorpe, most people remember his hard-handed disciplinary style, but that aside, I just recalled like he expected, good things from you. Like he wanted to watched the development of the students, and I think he led by example. He held the teachers to a certain standard, also to make sure they were on board with trying to, as you mentioned, work on this vision and mission of the school. And I just kind of felt that he helped us individually if you allowed yourself not to be scared by him. Went to him for advice. He could guide you, and you felt that you got something that you could use later on in life. He would steer a lot of the students on the right path academically.
I think so, because as I say, I wish I had listened to his advice. I think he had a very keen understanding of the needs of the developing child's mind.
Yes. I attest to that as well. I see Mr. Thorpe as a father who you don't have to wonder. He's there, but you don't really see him. But when you need him, he's there to
Yes.
provide the discipline and the protection that is needed. He's not overbearing. He doesn't. You know, it's like he's invisible, but at the same time, you know, he's there as a coverage for you all the time. I see him with that broad leadership where
Yeah.
that's how I saw him at top. It's like
Yeah.
he gives advice. He's like a good father. Then that's how I saw him at top, as a really
Yes.
good father.
Yes.
He steps in when
Yes.
it's necessary.
Looking back though, at the time I did not value the part of his leadership where he allowed the school to grow, not just allowed, but shaped the school growing in sports, academically, like giving us that balance as a young school. I didn't appreciate it as much then as I'm looking back as an older, after post graduating from the school, how important it was what he was doing at the time to have us competing and growing and being exposed to so many things, which was necessary to brand us,
And we
as
were
a
a
young
young school at the
school.
time. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think Meadowbrook was best to have the leadership of Mr. Top at the time. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
when I went there, I spent most of my time there with him, and I was impressed with Mr. Top. I just saw him as the person who, as I said, the father who is always there, no matter what.
Yes.
But he will provide the discipline, and he allows, in a sense, he allows it to blossom.
Yes, he did.
He allows it to blossom, but if you get out of hand, he's there to fix it.
They put you right back on track.
Yes. That's exactly
Right back on track.
So, who are some of the other teachers you knew, Denise? Because I say you wanted to big up the teachers, them. Call them out, because big them up.
Miss McLennan.
Oh, Miss McLennan was there when you went there?
Huh?
Miss McLennan was there when you started?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I didn't realize she was there from so early. I had no idea. I'm glad to hear that. Yes, go ahead.
I didn't know either.
Mrs. Headlam, Miss McCourty, Miss McCourty Wright. Some of you may remember ours, Mrs. Wright. Prof. Leorini. She was Mrs. Leorini then.
Wow.
She had been there for so long too. I didn't know that. In
I did not know that.
No.
Yeah. She came to us when we were in 5th and 6th form.
Oh, she came later on. Okay.
Yeah. Miss McLennan, Mrs. Wright were there from, I remember Mrs. Peterkin. Mrs. Peterkin was like everybody's favorite mother or
I mentioned her too,
depending on how old you were.
Yeah.
She was the sort of person that if you the little ones, the first formers, the second formers fell down, got cut or anything, you went to her and she would surreptitiously hug you.
Yes. And
I
both
thought Miss McLennan was the epitome of elegance.
Yes.
I so envied her, and she made me want to excel at Spanish.
Yes.
And she made Spanish fun.
Yeah. I think in looking back, I would even step out and say Miss McLennan was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
When we think now, they talk about, women who, are breaking the ceiling and, doing great things. I think in her way, she was in that era. She stood head and shoulders above the pack.
Yeah, Mama.
Go ahead. Mrs. Wright or Miss McCourty. She was a teacher. There are two teachers I'm going to give you an anecdote about, and they don't reflect well on me, but they tell you the caliber of those women. The first one is the worst story. Mrs. Headlam. First of all,
she was there when you started, Denise, in first form?
I can't remember when she came because we didn't start chemistry until I think third form, because before that you did general science.
You did general studies, yes.
Sorry about that. Continue. Sorry, go ahead.
So when I would have come under her influence would have been third form.
Mm-hmm.
And she would give up her Saturdays, and for any kid, didn't charge us, our parents, but any kid who was willing to come, would have lab classes to bring us up to scratch.
Mm-hmm. Chemistry lab class, yeah.
Yeah, that was dedication. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a story I'm going to tell. This is when I was in either fourth or fifth form. We had a lot of toads in our backyard, and dissection, in biology, you're dissecting toads.
Mm-hmm.
So I volunteered to bring toads for dissection. And there was one of the boys in my form was scared of them. He was fine with when they were, chloroformed and comatose on the lab table. But he was not fond of live toads, just like how most girls don't like being chased with the lizard on the thing.
Yes.
And normally, I will tell you this, I am not a bully or anything, but the devil got in me that day, and I thought it would be fun, I don't know why, to chase him around the school with a bag of toads. And I chased him until he broke down in tears. Mrs. Headlam, I don't remember if she witnessed it or she found him crying and found out what had happened. She would have been perfectly justified to give me a detention, to give me a lashing down. She didn't do that. She would have been perfectly satisfied to report me to my parents within her rights. She would have been perfectly within her rights to have done all that. All she did was call me into the lab, this was before assembly, and quietly tell me, Denise, I am terribly disappointed in you. This is not worthy of you.
And as a child, hearing the word, I'm disappointed in you, is great.
Felt so ashamed, so small.
Yeah.
That has stuck with me for the rest of my life, and it has dictated how I treat other people.
It resonated, yes.
I say, she didn't give me the detention. She didn't do anything else.
But you said, go ahead, finish, sorry.
But she knew how to make me think about what I had done.
Yeah, and it stayed with you. So
what would really resonate. She could have given me the detention, and I might have just done the detention, and that would have been it. And I might have gone on and bullied the kid another day. But I've never willfully bullied another person.
The story you're telling is synonymous with throat. A lot of the stories I've heard where teachers, one or other teachers have come forward. Students have come forward and said the teacher just reach out to them and just call them one side and tell them, say, what you're doing was wrong, instead of taking it to another level. And the students have learned the lesson so well, like you. Yeah. And
the other story I'm going to tell you is Miss McCourty.
Mm-hmm.
I love, there's two little stories about her. I was a avid reader. Read a book a day kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I hit first form, I had read all the children's book and everything. And again, my parents were actively involved. All the teachers knew my parents because they were involved in the PTA. They knew that my parents did not censor anything I read.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the library was very limited. You think it would, I don't know if you remember, Donna, how limited the library was in the library. In those days, when I was in first form, it was even worse limited. The children's library was almost non-existent. So I'm looking through the library, looking for something to read, and I can't find anything. And she was still then Miss McCourty. She hadn't yet married. I think she was just engaged at the time. And she sees and she knows that Denise is a reader, although she doesn't teach me now. Then she's teaching the seniors, but she knows my parents, she knows, and she looks at me I don't know if any of you ever read Erskine Caldwell. He not as popular these days, but back in
the day. Uh-huh.
in the day, and he was considered adult. Tobacco Road, that sort of thing. God's Little Acre. Dirt poor American adult literature.
Literature. Oh, okay. Mm.
And I started to look at that. She says, yes, Denise, you can take that. That's from the senior library, but you can take it. I take it home. By the time I was in third form, I'm reading James Baldwin.
Wow. Yeah.
And all that sort of
stuff. That's advanced. No. First form, I was Nancy Drew and all the hot little stories that we whipped them off.
I'm still reading that, but by time, but that's behind me. I'm leaving Nancy Drew in first form.
First form.
But I am now in fourth form, and she's teaching me grammar. I'm doing fine in literature, but grammar I'm failing badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mouthing after in class. I would not speak English if I had not been born into an English-speaking country. It is an illogical language.
What? And what was her response?
I would rather speak English. I have problems with spelling. I have since learned that part of my problems with English, because by spelling and all that, is that I'm dyslexic. I didn't know that back then. I'd never been diagnosed.
Yes. Yeah.
But part of my problems with math too. But anyway, she's trying to reach me, and I'm being mulish. I'm stubborn. So what does she do? Because this child is next year is looking at the JCEs, and Mrs. Wright, as she is then, is seeing a big failure. This child will not go on to university without English language.
Mm-hmm.
So what does she do? She calls this child's parents, and she calls and says, come up to my home. And they spend all sorts of ways brainstorming as to how to get into this child's head. You know what grade I got in English language in the GCE? Take a guess.
Oh, you excel distinction?
1. Distinction 1.
Yeah. Because you were guided at the right point.
Met with my parents, brainstormed and figured out how to get inside my head. And she knew, because she had seen me from first form and nurtured my love of English language. So she started getting at me through books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then she would tease me with her marks. She had a way. She never gave anybody a mark over 7. Like, you knew that a 7 out of 10 from her was like a 10 out of 10 from everybody else.
Wow.
And I would get her. First she would start 4, then she would mark me up to 5. Then all of a sudden one day I say 6 out of 10. Then one day 7. And I used to sit beside Francis Rutty, and his English was impeccable. Mm-hmm. And eventually Francis Rutty and I would be looking, what did she give you? She gave me a 6.5. I got a 7. Then Francis would say, she gave me a 7. I got a 7.5.
Oh, wow. So it was a carrot. It was a way of motivating to do more. I expect more.
So I was so glad before she died, I was able to speak to her. A few months before she died, I was able to speak to her on the phone, because that woman, and to this day, every time I hear somebody mangle the English language, my body does a shudder.
But based on the experiences that you're sharing now with these teachers, could you, if you had to mention someone who was favorite, who would that be? If you had someone that really had the greatest impact on you, who would you say?
To tell the truth, it depends on what subject I'm thinking of, because all of them were impactful. All of them. we were just so blessed at that moment in time. The way I look at it, maybe other groups have the same experience. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying that every teacher, because there's, it would have been just too ingenious to say that every teacher was that, but all the ones for the subjects that I took, and even like sometimes it's not like there was even in sixth form general paper,
Uh-huh.
the discussions, the way sometimes it's not even teachers that taught us as such. I remember Roma Prasanna fidget with our drama classes.
Speech and
The
Yes,
dress, yes, yes.
music. Yes, I remember Mrs. Fitchett.
Yeah, it's and sometimes it's just even. I remember Mr. Kershaw. I was lousy at maths. I barely passed maths. I did get my GC in math, but I remember was something that I was just reminiscing with Bev Ralph there, where she's used to be Ralph. She's
Uh-huh.
on my foster sister, about something that happened.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Kershaw, Miss McLennan couldn't make a class, and Mr. Kershaw came in to sit with us. He didn't speak Spanish, but he thought, and we thought, well, yeah, poor Mr. Kershaw, he stuck with us. We stuck with him, and we're kind of slouching down in our desk. You know what he did? He had done Latin when he was in school and university.
Uh-huh.
And he did this exercise, did the Lord's Prayer up on the board in Latin, and said, well, okay, I don't speak Spanish. And with his Latin and our Spanish, we would have this exercise of translating it between the Latin and the Spanish. And all of a sudden, we're looking at this man in a completely new light. This little English man that's come out here to teach us. And whoa, he's kind of a cool.
He took a totally different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
is
it was
good.
entertaining.
Mm,
Yeah, because we thought we were going to kind of make his life hell for this 40-minute period.
No, that's interesting. I wanted to know. I know Lance, you had asked. We have asked in other podcasts, and I think it's appropriate here in terms of expatriate teachers. What was it like back then, if any? Did you?
We had quite a few. We had some Peace Corps teachers.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember. I remember there was this American guy. I don't remember what he taught. I think he briefly taught me, but I know he was there. But I don't remember his name. I don't know if he was. I don't think he was the only one. They usually only were there for a year or so.
Yeah.
But Kershaw was there for quite a while. There was Mrs. McGeechee.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
Her son went to the school.
Yes.
I can't remember his name.
I remember. Yeah, Michael. Was it Michael McGeechee?
I can't remember because he left. I think end of fifth form, but I think he went back to go to university in Scotland.
Okay. I remember a math teacher we had. I think it was back then Sri Lanka, and I remember his accent was so different, like a clicking sound, and it was.
We also
took a while to understand what he was saying in math class.
When we were in sixth form, our sixth form, the science group of us, for a while, I think it was when Prof. Leah Riney was on mat leave, we shared classes with Calabar.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was we were in lower six then. I think it was when we were in lower six or upper six. I don't remember when it was. So we would bus down to Calabar. Some days the Calabar boys would bus up to us, and I don't remember his name, but he was a teacher, a West African. He was very nice. and we preferred Prof. Of course, the boys all had a crush on Prof. Well, the Calabar boys and our boys.
Yeah. Yes. She was.
That's who Mrs. Leorine, eh?
Mrs. Leorine.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was a wonderful person. And still is.
Yes.
To this day.
Yeah.
And I can understand why the boys would have a crush, Denise. Don't worry.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I remember Mr. Murdoch, who just passed away. He gave us some. He didn't teach me per se. Well, we did GP with him in upper sixth, and what I remember most about him was how he encouraged. He was a young teacher at the time, but he wasn't familiar with us, but he was like a big brother to us and advised us and encouraged us to think. He introduced us to a lot of Jamaican and West Indian authors.
Yeah.
And taught us to expand our minds. I remember some of the discussions also. Mr. Chin also did GP with us, and he also encouraged us because I never did geography. Geography and I don't operate in the same plane. So after fourth
I enjoy
form,
geography. Yeah.
After fourth form, I didn't do geography.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have any real official teaching with Mr. Chin, but also he encouraged a lot of discussions. And most teachers, even if like there were always some time in the class that may not be relevant to the subject, but we were allowed to think, to talk.
Yeah, which was important, to help develop your mind.
To use our minds. Because I remember when we were in first form, but for the short time Mr. Cuthbert was there, and this is one of the things that struck me, is that he told us the Latin root of the word education, which means to draw out. And he says the whole idea of educating us was to teach us how to think. And that seemed to have been the mandate of all the teachers that I came in contact with at Meadowbrook.
Yeah.
That they weren't just teaching us how to regurgitate the books.
To pass a test. They're teaching you to think. Yes.
Take the book, interpret them, and make something of them.
And that's such an important point, because when you think about now how children, the tools they have to learn, and to do research. In those days, 62 coming up in the 70s, if you think about, what we had, in terms of how to look up information and so on, it was a challenge, but it still didn't hinder that generation from excelling.
We were taught mental flexibility.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, go ahead, finish, Denise. I have a point to make, but finish up.
And I hope that teachers still remember to teach kids that, because sometimes the emphasis can be on teaching them to do things inside the box rather than outside the box.
Yeah, I like how you put it, Denise, because they didn't teach it to the memory work. And with technology, there's no need for anybody to teach memory work. What needs to happen now, people need to start thinking outside of the box. Because any information you need is on the phone in front of you. Any information.
Right.
So, if you memorize things at all, you don't have to, but you need to learn how to think. And I think we need to get back to that. And that is the missing thing. It's people regurgitate information. I think that's a good thing. No. You need to think about it for yourself.
Exactly.
Learn how to think. And know what to do with the information you have before you.
Exactly.
And I like that was the fact that used to be, that's how Meadowbrook was when you were there. I love that. That. Despite the challenges that most of the information wasn't available to us at our fingertip. And think about it, today that's not an issue.
Not
No.
an
They
issue.
shouldn't be wasting time teaching kids to memorize information. That's rubbish. I'm sorry. I'm just
Hmm.
calling it like it is. You need to be teaching children how to think, not to memorize
Yeah.
Yeah.
information. All the structure need to be revamped and make students learn how to think, not about memorizing
Yeah.
information. Yeah, so.
Some in some areas there though, I think they're exploring that because I can tell you it's challenging. You know, those you have kids or grandchildren, the way they're looking at math is totally different from the memorization we did.
Hmm.
But that's another topic. I
Yeah.
kind of, if Lance wanted to see if we could touch on a little bit right now because we're in on the school pride. I'm curious about how school pride was at Meadowbrook, than as it is now, because there are challenges, but different. It's two different eras.
Yeah, let me ask a question this way, Donna. It's the same question. But how
Yeah.
proud are you to be at Meadowbrook, Denise?
I was very proud. Well, for one thing, we knew that when we wore the uniform, we represented the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's still the rule, but we knew that it like when we left the school, we left and we went home, we were to take off that uniform before we did anything else. And if we were going out and we had on that uniform, we were representing the school. Point case in question. The length of the skirt and stuff, and I know that fashions vary and stuff. And they made some concession to the fashions of the time, but still you couldn't hike them up under your ass.
No, not allowed.
It wasn't allowed. Your pleats had to be neat. Or when you're in sixth form, the tie, like other schools, they would break the tie down. The tie had to be right up to the collar. I had a problem in that I got heat rash. So I broke my tie one day and I was marched up to the office. I had to have a note. So I was allowed to break my tie, but I had to have that note from my
No.
parents explaining.
Yeah,
And
for an exception, yes.
for that exception to be made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry.
You couldn't wear rings.
Yeah.
When you were in sixth form, if you had an unobtrusive signet ring, if your ears were pierced, yes, you could wear a sleeper.
Yeah, I remember those.
All these things.
Yeah.
It may sound stupid, but it was all part of you are representing the school.
School, yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a way to dress, and it was adhered to. But even the uniform and your appearance was important. But even on that, I'm glad that you said you were proud to, say I attended Meadowbrook, and that's something that with the younger students now, for various reasons, school pride, not just at Meadowbrook, is something that needs to be addressed and looked at. Um, and I think a lot of in the 70s and maybe the 80s, school pride was also aligned with how your school ranked in sports as well. That what made you proud of attending the school. That is understandable, but I think with things changing, when I say things changing, the way children are learning, post COVID, issues too, where learning. I know a teacher said to me, previous to COVID, the children, you had a chalk on the board. You were teaching on the board, but once we went online, and then we bring the kids back into school, we have to address, like, okay, there's a difference now in how we approach learning. The children have been accustomed to using technology, and in using technology, heads are down. You're looking at your screen or your phone, and so on. So it's like a whole new approach to engaging the kids, and also, getting them to have that bridge between bridging the old and going forward with the new way. And school pride too has something to do with it, how they view themselves, view the school, and understand what the mission of the school is. A lot of people are aware of the motto "Ita Splendiat Lux Vestra" and what it means, but I am not sure if the mission of the school is as well known. And the mission is to make Meadowbrook the school of first choice. And that's important, for us. Yeah. Past students and current.
That may be a societal thing more than anything else, because yeah. But the thing is that I remember that back then, like if child was out, a student was out in the uniform and did anything, the report would come back to the school because that child in a Meadowbrook uniform did X. That boy had on Meadowbrook epaulets.
Yes.
That girl was wearing the Meadowbrook tartan. And next morning, it would be reported to the school.
Yes.
And even the name that wasn't known. And when I was there, the school was small enough that the teachers would have a pretty good idea which student it was,
yes,
just by the location.
Just by where they walk in, and which, yes, I can see that. Yeah.
That is true.
Which bus stop?
Which bus stop? Yeah.
They would have a pretty, because they know when it was one of this group or one of that group, and then they could suss out the group.
Track you down.
The artists know a certain girls or boys walk with a certain set of people, so they know who was with the group. Yes. And they know who the troublemakers are now. They know the ones who will do it and don't do it.
Oh, yes.
Well, not even troublemakers. Every child, no matter how well behaved they are normally, at some point is going to transgress.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, part of our child. Yeah, being a child.
But let me ask you a question, Denise, because I mentioned it at the beginning when I was doing the introduction. You started Meadowbrook the year Jamaica became independent. What was the transition like? Did Meadowbrook became a different school after independence, or was it the same thing? Is there any significant thing that happened because we got independent?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay.
Not that I didn't notice any difference.
It was just like a business as usual for you then?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. So, all right, let me ask another question then. What are some of the fun memories you remember at Meadowbrook during the 7 years you were there? Were they on a field trip in the classroom?
We had some good field trips with the biology trips, the botany trips. We sports day was always fun.
How was sports day? How was that?
Good question, Dan. I was going to ask.
Nice.
Yeah. How was sports day?
I belong to Got Your House. Got Your House always came last. But it was always fun. You go down, you cheer.
I proudly brag I was in Rothney House, and I will not switch.
Where
Yeah. I will not switch no matter what. Rothney. Yes. We are the best in MHS. Yeah. That's it.
Sports day was always at Bottomfield, Denise?
When I was no, The
Oh.
first year, I think it was at the top field, or the first 2 years. But that eventually it went to bottom field. But I don't remember exactly when it went to bottom
So what
field.
was that transition like? Where you had to leave the school campus and go to a sports day? What was that transition like?
Fun. We strolled, more cohort of students marching down Meadowbrook Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had this big lovely straw hat that I had, and I remember Colleen Cowan and I going down there, man, and we would cheer
Yeah.
because we were not among the athletic ones, but we were good at cheering, Colleen and I.
Was Meadowbrook competing in inter high
Champs?
school stuff?
In
Yes.
Champs? Oh
Champs,
yes, we competed. We didn't make a mark, but Bev Ralph, when she was there, she was one of our star athletes. I'm trying to remember. So we had I said Paul Glaze that we used to think, and
Yes.
and we had a cricket team. We played cricket. When I was there, we were not at our athletic peak yet, but
Right.
we competed in everything. We competed and we went and we cheered, and
So
we were proud of our team. And when we went to champs, we cheered Meadowbrook on until we got eliminated, and then we would cheer for the team that had the best. Yeah, I remember the years. You're all too young to remember the years of the mighty Quarry. So we went and we cheered our guys on, and then when our team went, and then we got behind Excelsior and chanted with the Excelsior girls. Oh, what a mighty Quarry!
Yeah, it was great competition, great fun. Yeah.
And I think what you just laid out there, Denise, it laid the foundation for what came afterwards, where we started to compete early. It didn't matter that we weren't winning, but we're always competing.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah, because
when Mr. Bogle was there, he was a keen cricketer, so the cricket team got a lot of support. We not only had a first 11, we had a second 11.
Yeah, Mr. Top.
That's what you said. Mr. Top was that too, right?
Mr. Top was a cricketer as well. You'd write about.
Yeah, from Barbados. Yeah,
Mr. Top was an avid cricketer and a cricket fan.
Avid cricketer.
Yeah. Yeah, but so maybe it's no coincidence that we break the glass ceiling with cricket done.
With cricket.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say we actually had a first and a second 11, so that says something.
Yes, that's awesome.
No real light in it.
Yeah.
But they were making the foundation.
We
always like sports was compulsory when we were there, up to fourth form.
So let me ask you another question, Denise. What is the most embarrassing moment you can remember at Meadowbrook that you can look back on with a smile?
Teenage years are always embarrassing moments.
That's so true. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, the most embarrassing moment was when I turned out to learn for tennis, because when they got the tennis courts done, and I learned how to learn to play tennis. We had the tennis. Mr. Singh taught. What did Mr. Singh teach? And oh Lord, he was handsome. So of course, all the girls were signing up for tennis lessons because he I think he taught, was it maths or something like that? I think he taught math generally, but he also was teaching tennis.
He must have been a youngish.
Yes, he was young.
Okay.
Worse, this was very embarrassing because one, he knew my family. My parents knew him. My mother worked for his father. Two, my eldest brother was in school a doubles island champion in school. To this day he still plays tennis.
Tennis doubles champion?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a brother who went to Meadowbrook, Denise?
No, he went to Calabar and then J. So of course, so I naturally turned out for tennis for two reasons. One, although I knew Mr. Singh through my parents, I, like all the girls, I wanted to be in Mr. Singh's class because he was so gorgeous. And I was just 13. So you gotta turn out to look at the gorgeous teacher. So in my my little kit, the gym kit, and my nice tennis shoes and my racket that I borrowed from my brother. And after the first term, I can't remember if I was asked not to come back or I just didn't go back because of the shame. I could not hit the ball. It was so embarrassing. Reg Irvin's sister can't hit a tennis ball. Reg Irvin, who used to practice with young Russell, who was the Davis Cup representative for Jamaica. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I can't have avoided the tennis courts for years. Even when we were in the sixth form block, every time I had to walk across the tennis court to go to the sixth form block, I felt shame.
You shouldn't feel ashamed. But I can imagine. Oh my! What was the uniform for tennis like back then, though?
The usual gym kit. We didn't.
Oh, the same.
Yeah. Oh, it was so embarrassing.
I remember my sister carrying her tennis racket to school, Denise. My sister started in Meadowbrook in 1965. And I remember her taking her racket to school because she used to play tennis at school. So, funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tennis was part of the yeah, but
yeah.
Part of the first term, I don't even think I finished the term trying to learn tennis.
Mm-hmm.
I remember netball. I don't remember tennis in my time. I don't remember. I'm not saying it wasn't played. I just remember netball was the sport for most girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Denise, let me ask you a couple more questions because simple as I take it, even though you said you didn't have much to, we have been here for 95 minutes, and it doesn't feel like anything. So, but we'll keep moving. What is the best learning experience you got from Meadowbrook?
The best experience?
Yeah, the best learning experience you got from Meadowbrook, from attending Meadowbrook.
I learned how to. I think I learned how to continue learning. I learned the value of discussion. I learned to appreciate the input that I got there, the groundwork, and the value of a good education.
Mm-hmm.
I learned the basis of what was going to help me throughout life. It gave me life lessons. I didn't just learn book learning there. I learned life lessons there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, life lessons are great thing. I think we all can share that.
I learned that still aid me today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I learned moral lessons. I learned, things that I still use in my day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Very. Another question, Denise. Let's keep the question, keep moving. It's a similar sort of question, but kind of different. What life lessons you learned at Meadowbrook that you have passed on to your friends and family?
I've learned to keep an open mind. To examine things. And I can say, all the teachers, like regardless of what the subject was, we weren't boxed into that. There were discussions that sometimes veered away from the topic on the curriculum, but branched out into lives. So I've learned to not be, but to be open to discussion, to be open to experiences, and that learning comes in all sorts of forms. And that sort of helps me sometimes when I have to make difficult decisions, sometimes when I need to see my way clear about things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you learned that at Meadowbrook because of the teachers Meadowbrook provided at the time.
Yes. I of course, a lot of it was also because of my home environment, but Meadowbrook fostered that also. They were an extension of what I was getting at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In other words, I think all the teachers seem to have, it's as if they reached into us as kids and took whatever they saw that they could and nurtured it. And
I definitely agree with you on that. I think we benefited. That's a very good point you're raising.
And the garden or developing gardens so that we blossomed. Some of us in different ways, but we blossomed.
Yeah.
David Moody, he was unhappy with his other school experiences, but at Meadowbrook he felt more comfortable.
That's Peter Moody's brother or relative?
No. He was an expat child who
okay.
But he was like he had transferred from Monroe and he was very unhappy there. But he said at Meadowbrook he felt more comfortable.
Yeah, I've heard that as well too. And let me ask, as you mentioned that, there are a lot of expatriates, people from overseas and other schools who came to Meadowbrook at the time?
Not a lot, but there were. But I think there were at most any other the secondary schools going around. More, I think there were more at Campion than at Meadowbrook, but yeah, we had our share.
Mm-hmm.
Was Campion considered a sister school back?
No, hell no. Sorry.
Not just no, Donna. H no.
Not causing any trouble, just
No.
checking.
That's Dennis being advantage. Don't worry, I hear her.
I should have warned you. You shouldn't. Sometimes you need to put a delay on me.
Yeah. Don't worry. I can't take out that. I can't take out that, Denise, if you want. I don't think I want anyway. I like that advantage part of you. Don't worry.
I don't really care, but in case you're worried about me offending.
No, I don't care either, Denise. I want you to come and speak. Your mind. Yes.
So that grammar sometimes needs to be edited.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in there.
Yes. Yeah. But we can't always do that if we need to do anything. But I'm not taking out that at all. I like that. You don't have to say no more, Denise. You don't even have to expand on that at all. That is enough explanation.
Well said. Yes, well said.
No explanation on that at all, Donna. That is just that the message is loud there. So yeah. Because those schools were different at the time. Different.
Very, very different.
Completely different than Meadowbrook. So yeah. But by the way, Denise, Meadowbrook at no time at all in the early days had any boarding school or any thoughts of.
No.
Okay. I know some schools had, even in Kingston, because I think even some of the schools, Holy Child still have a boarding pass at the school, Donna.
Holy Childhood?
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Not so
aware.
certain.
I
Okay.
don't have a good recollection, so I don't wanna.
I don't know if I still do, but I had a boarding.
You there, Denise?
I don't really.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I say
Okay.
Calabar did have a boarding facility.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Yes.
I heard something recently done, and it's like even some of the schools, somebody told me about Holy Child, like the daughter came down from the state and
Well,
was boarding on Holy Child.
JC. I have a friend whose son is going to boarding now at J. Not now. It's like the past 3 years. He's
Right,
been
no,
at.
right. I was shocked when I hear that some of the school in Kingston have, and I don't know if they board on campus or it's like a facility off the campus. I just can't. I don't know.
No, I'm
Who's
I'm not
used
sure where it is, but they are well, set up.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
no, right. I was not aware, right. That's why I always when I
yes,
think of boarding school, I think of rural schools. I didn't realize.
no, Kingston had boarding schools.
Hmm
Mm.
I just wasn't aware right at all, Denise. I didn't grow up with that at all. I always assumed that boarding represent country school. That was my.
No, remember, people used to send from the country to come to Kingston
Yeah,
School.
right.
My foster sisters are from St. Thomas. But because they were going to Meadowbrook, they needed somewhere to stay. That's how I got sisters.
Right.
Yeah, during my time at Meadowbrook, I have a friend, and she's a long time friend now, lifelong friend. I should really say, from Bahamas.
Hmm
She came from the Bahamas to attend high school, at Meadowbrook. So I'm sure that happened, in other local schools as well. But of course we didn't have dorms, so she
Right,
boarded,
right.
privately. Yes.
Right. So that'd be like a
Hmm.
private board or an adoptive thing like what Denise did, something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That'd been like a hybrid or what exactly. I could see that happening easily. You find a
Yeah.
family who go to
Exactly.
Meadowbrook who can afford it and wants another child to come live with them and that
Yes,
works out.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right, and just raise them throughout the high school years. Uh-huh.
I can't see that.
Hmm.
Another question, Denise. What message you would give to existing students or future students or staff members at Meadowbrook who listen to this podcast and they can listen tomorrow, next year, next week, 10 years time? What message would I like them hear? Students and current staff members at Meadowbrook.
That I hope that they can carry on the traditions that were started, that they love the school the way we loved it, and that they get from it what we got from it, and that when they reach the same stage of life, they can have similar memories to what I have, and that all their memories are as good as mine. I have nothing but good memories of my time at Meadowbrook. I have wonderful memories of my time at Meadowbrook and a lot, more than a lot of gratitude for my time at.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, gratitude is a must.
Yeah.
I think we all have common ground with the gratitude of our education at Meadowbrook, for
That's
sure.
that's how I feel to Denise. I have so much good memories of Meadowbrook. I can't think of if I do it again, it's Meadowbrook I go again the same way. That's how I look on it. No other school I go to at all. I love that place so much. So and
I feel the same way. Same way.
So let me ask you this, both of you, I don't know if you had answered this already, Donna. If you didn't answer it, you can answer it now. But let me ask Denise first. How does it make you feel, Denise, that you're bringing up back all these Meadowbrook memories after all these, 60 years? 1962, I'm 60 this year. And I don't know if you're, yeah. How does it make you feel, bringing up back all these memories after all these years?
Go ahead there, Denise.
Not sure. I am a little bit sad that I haven't had a chance to say thank you to the ones who have passed on. I'm glad that I had a chance to reconnect with Miss McCourty. I've had a chance to reconnect with Mrs. Headlam. I have always been in touch with Prof because our families are connected from over the years.
That's Dr. Leah Riney, right?
Yeah. But I wish I had had a chance to have said thank you to every one of them. And I'm sorry that I've lost touch with some of the friends that I shared those years with. And I'd like to know what's happened to some of them. Some of them through our association on the internet. I do know, but so many I've lost touch with, and but it's all good. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Well, the ones you have lost touch with, they might hear this broadcast and they will reach out and say, you can tell them, I will tell them for you that Denise wants to get in touch with you. All the people went to Meadowbrook between 96 to 169 that year.
Mm-hmm.
Denise would love to get back in touch with you if you're still around. So that is.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to know that everything's good with them.
Yeah.
And that we all have those good memories together.
Mm-hmm. For sure, some of the members them from Meadowbrook. Yeah. And you want to share that? Did I ask that question earlier, Donna? You have anything to add to that?
I mean, my memories are definitely, very positive. I treasure the friends that I made having being able to attend Meadowbrook, and I actually can boast I still have a lot of those lifelong friends to this day. Um, I'm I look back, I really felt that the school hired and gave us some of the best teachers that were, there at that time to help mold us and direct us and, give us the education, a good quality secondary education. And we can see from the students who have graduated, who are in careers and so on, have taken their places and are, now leaders, thanks to what Meadowbrook, did for us. I just do hope, though, that those of us who are listening to the podcast would make an effort, though, to get involved. I always like to push that plug that there are so many things little things, not anything that's time consuming, but just to reach back, contact the school. You can email the principal. If you visit home, stop by on campus, and you would be surprised how the students there, they are in awe when they are introduced to someone who is an adult who attended the school. It has a very, very positive impact on them. And but those, Meadowbrookers are global. I think we're almost in every country. Reach out to an alumni association, because there's still work that we can get done. And go on Facebook and look for whether the Canadian chapter, the New York chapter, and the local PSA. There's something that there's always need for past students to get involved, and to still make an impact on the school. I can talk about it more later, but I have to put that in.
Well, Denise, this has been a wonderful conversation. But before we go, I have a couple last questions.
Uh-huh.
And this goes to Donna as well. Is there any questions or topic that you'd like to comment on that you think I did not ask?
Go ahead, Denise.
Not that I can think of. I don't know.
Well,
not that I can think of.
I know one of the things you asked, we might ask is there any advice that we could have given our younger self now that we are, graduated, older, being back? What could you tell your 15-year or 16-year-old self, that you did or didn't do back then?
uh, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. I would like to say I should have listened to Mr. Thorpe, but then again, maybe my life would not have turned out the way it has, and I like the way my life has turned out. So, but I think Mr. Thorpe did give me good advice. It's just that I didn't take it. But I'm not unhappy with the way my life turned out, so maybe it should have turned out this way anyway. I don't know. But the teachers I had, the directions they were guiding me, maybe I didn't know as much as I thought I did back then, and I could have taken a little more guidance.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned out, I mean, I think all in all, like you said, with what you did, with what what we learned, all of us, we did all right. We did all right.
Yeah. In spite of myself, yeah, they gave me enough that it was okay. But the thing is that but I would say, but one of the things I would say is that I should have paid more attention to maintaining the ties that I had established back then and not letting them loose.
Yeah.
I have lost touch with people who were dear to me back then. And by time I realized that I had let this threads holding us slip through my fingers, I couldn't.
Yes.
I have fortunately kept some of those threads tight or still, but I've lost too many of the threads.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that perhaps is what I would tell that 17, 18-year-old me. Hold on to the threads and not let them go. Life spins out of control very quickly, and the years go too fast.
No, that's good advice. That's good advice. For me, if I had to, think of something, I secretly always feel I won't use the word regret, but I wished that I had been able to utilize that second language, Spanish. I did so many years of Spanish, but not until way after I graduated and maybe migrated here, I could understand the value of having being bilingual. So that's the advice I would give to my younger self. Don't just, I wish I hadn't just read through it like, studying for an exam, but actually valued it as something that I would have needed, in my career and so on, because living on an island, I think being under 18, living on an island is a different perspective from when you now, grow into an adult and go international. You go outside of the Caribbean and get to understand, how that all those subjects that we learned in high school, how valuable and how important they would be in your adult life in one way or another. And I'm sure you both could understand what I mean with on a big scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a whole big world out there, bigger than Jamaica completely. Yeah?
Exactly.
So the last question I have for you, Denise, what made Meadowbrook magical?
Everything.
I like that.
Everything.
The compound was beautiful. The teachers that we got exposed to, Meadowbrook, most people just rally about how I know in our days, you know, you went to school and you were excited to get up in the morning to go to school. The fun you know you're gonna have, even if you had fights, you know, it was still exciting. And you know, I know for me, I said before, it was not wanting to lose my friends. You know, the long it was easy to get home, but I always took the long way to get home to just enjoy the conversations that we had, you know, with each other. Coming home from school, going back over everything that happened during the day, it was a magical place. And you know, having the teachers, you know, really expose you to um, what life was gonna, you know, be, what's gonna be happening in your life after the, you know, after leaving school, and allowing us to get involved with, you know, making, whether in sports or in that extracurricular thing of I know we talked about netball before, how exciting it was. You did tennis, but we had concerts, we had a number of things going on, and sports day and the interaction with the others. It was magical. It was exciting, and that's what makes these Meadowbrook memories so such a treasure in my mind.
So Dennis,
How,
you felt the same way. Go ahead. Sorry.
no,
Yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, Dennis, you go ahead.
Yeah.
No, what were you saying, Lance?
I was asking if
Yeah.
you felt the same way, like how Donna and I felt. Because when I was going to Meadowbrook, I didn't want to leave. When school over, you didn't want to leave at all. I just wondering if that's how you felt when you just started Meadowbrook, when you got there. You don't want to go home.
Oh, no, I was always ready to go home at the end of the day, unless there was something specific to keep me there. Um, but but I enjoyed my time there. It wasn't, and but when I was finished upper six, I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just the nature of this particular teenager at that time in life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I was not. It wasn't that I was tired of Meadowbrook. I was just ready to get on with the next stage of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
was
understandable.
I
Yes.
patient to get on with the next stage of my life. But that
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I
that
was excited to get on too. I could say, but yeah, it wasn't to say to you know, get out of Meadowbrook. We had done it. 7 years was, it was, you know, was good,
yeah.
and I felt I was now prepared. I have to say, I felt I was prepared to enter into. I didn't go straight to university. I wanted to work first a little bit, like you know, and they, I think they they what is it called? You had an opportunity to get a job. The Michael government at the time had that what was it called? The
Youth
youth
service.
youth service, right? So right, I joined the youth service to build that bridge to help me, you know, figure out what I wanted to do, and I ended up working at Bank of Jamaica and stayed there for a few years, you know, and could then kind of figure out where I wanted to go next.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was it was good. It was good time. Good
No,
times.
eager to go to university. My younger brother was going, and I was eager to go, and we I was I had friends who were going on to university too, and it was I
Yeah.
just couldn't wait to get to university.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Irony was I dropped out a few years later, but, but yeah, so,
Yeah.
but but that was it. But at 18, you think you know everything. And I thought I had a life plan, you know, um, all planned out for me, and I was fortunate enough that I had parents who allowed me a certain freedom of a certain degree of autonomy.
Yes.
At the same time, Meadowbrook had also given me a certain degree of in their helping and prepping me for life. And parents had thought that they had given me the tools, Meadowbrook had given me the tools. So if this was what I wanted, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So, but yeah.
Anyway, ladies, this has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation, Denise. It has been a little over 2 hours, and it feels like it's 20 minutes. We're just conversing about Meadowbrook memories. And the only last thing I want to ask both of you, if you have any closing remarks, and you go first, Denise, any closing remarks?
Really, just that I hope that Meadowbrook goes from strength to strength, and that for this generation and all generations get out of it what we did and always have the same fond memories of it, and that they still continue to attract the same caliber of teachers with the dedication and the insight that the teachers I had.
And for you, Donna, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited and proud being a past student at Meadowbrook. I certainly treasure the memories I had, the friendships I formed and I built. And I would encourage all past students out there, when you listen to this podcast or any other Meadowbrook Memories podcast, just to again remember, reach back to the school. The current principal, Mr. Kevin Facey, he has a vision and he has a project in mind that he's looking for volunteers. He's looking for ideas to build in the auditorium a wall of fame. And that wall of fame, it's just taking shape, but he needs people, past students like us, to reach out to him so that we can capture some of these memories we are talking about, like, who are the history of the principals at the school, some of the achievers at the school, whether in sports or in other, areas, whether in academics and so on. Something in the auditorium on the wall that, like a lot of the top schools in Jamaica, they already have it, that captures history that will pass down for generations to come. So, if anyone has time and or ideas, something to contribute in that forum, definitely I encourage you, reach out to the local past student association and to the principal. He's very approachable and welcoming, and he could use our help, all of us. So I'm so grateful for this podcast format, Lance, to help us capture these treasured memories.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. And I appreciate both of you, Denise Irving-Robertson and Donna White Philibert. I really appreciate you taking the time out this Sunday evening to come and spend the 2 hours in a nice little chat and memories.
Yes, this was fun.
And I always say, God bless you both, and God bless Meadowbrook. And I really thank and appreciate you both for coming. And God bless all of us, as I say.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you, Lance. I appreciate you, Denise, and your time. And God bless our school, our beloved alma mater, Meadowbrook High School.
Definitely. All right. Have a good one. Thanks, Denise. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Donna.
You're very welcome. Thank you both.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Meadowbrook Memories. And remember to give us all the support and encouragement you can on whatever social media platform you are listening. And special thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince, who takes care of everything involved in getting the podcast out every week. And without him, this podcast would not be possible. It is his expertise that allows me to do what I love doing every week, having great conversations about Meadowbrook memories, and he's responsible for everything else. So again, thanks to my production manager, Kyle Prince.